It's Thursday, June 2nd, and this is now on H&N.
Found themselves taken advantage of by a scam.
Billions of dollars in student debt wiped clean. I'm Dina Demetrius in Los Angeles with the story as the Biden administration considers even broader relief.
I'm not confident that this is the best plan.
The City Council approves a slimmed-down rail construction plan, but not everyone's on board. We've got all these stories, plus Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee is underway.
She's done so much for the country.
We'll take you to the UK, coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now, and thanks for having lunch with us here in the H&N Digital Center. We got Dylan in for Ashley today. We'll get right to today's top stories.
Yeah, Jonathan, more than 500,000 students who graduated from the now shuttered Corinthian college chain will have their student loans canceled, and this includes some from Hawaii. Dina Demetrius reports.
This building once housed Everest College in West Los Angeles, a remnant of one of the nation's most notorious cases of alleged fraud in higher education. The campus was part of the chain of Corinthian for-profit colleges that collapsed in 2015, leaving students under mountains of debt.
I spent a lot of money to come here, and now the money basically I feel has been thrown in the trash.
I feel like they walked into my house and they went into my wallet and they took $5 grand from me.
At that time, Vice President Kamala Harris was California's Attorney General and had sued the company for misleading practices. Thursday, she announced 560,000 former students will have their federal loans canceled.
It means that if you attended Corinthian at any point in its existence, you will receive this relief automatically. You do not need to apply for it.
The government's action erases nearly $6 billion in debt for students who took on more and more loans in the hopes of graduating into high-paying jobs. Vice President Harris says instead, many got nothing but heartache.
Our investigation revealed that some of the degrees from Corinthian were so worthless that they didn't help a single student get a job.
The move comes as the Biden administration considers broader action to relieve Americans of more than $1.7 trillion in student loans.
The bottom line is we're fixing a broken system.
Administration officials say they're looking carefully at the issue, but no decision has been made yet on how to proceed. Dina Demetrius, CBS News, Los Angeles.
At its height, Corinthian Colleges was one of the largest for-profit education companies in North America, with more than 100 campuses and more than 80,000 students enrolled in 2013. The company also operated Heald College, which had a campus here in Hawaii. They also had online learning options. The Obama administration approved thousands of claims before leaving office, but scores of applications languished at the department for years. The Trump administration tried to limit and delay loan cancellations, leading to lawsuits involving Corinthian and other students of for-profit colleges. Some of those cases yielded forgiveness for borrowers, but others remain ongoing. This new announcement should put that to rest.
The number of frontline healthcare workers in the state out sick continues to grow. We got an update on this today from Hilton Rathel. He's the CEO and president of the Healthcare Association of Hawaii.
Many healthcare workers, both at our hospitals and our long-term care facilities and other healthcare settings, who are either testing positive or having close contacts because they're out in the community. And so we're reaching numbers actually in terms of frontline healthcare workers who are out. And right now it's in the range of around 800 individuals. And that is very close to the peak of what we experienced during the Omicron surge toward the end of last year and earlier this year. Well, the challenge is that our hospitals are very busy, and while our COVID numbers are still high in terms of our hospitalizations, we have around, as of today, we have around 180 COVID patients hospitalized across the state. That's not a huge number, but every staff person who is out has an impact on our hospitals. And it just means that we have less people to take care of the people who are sick in our hospitals. And it means that we have to rely more on temporary staff. We have to rely more on bringing people in from the mainland. We have to rely more on, managers, directors, people who have other administrative roles, who have clinical credentials, and they have to come back and work on the units. And then it means that the staff who are working, many of them are being asked to take on additional shifts, to work doubles or to work extra shifts. And they may be working 3 12-hour shifts a week. They may be asked to work, 4 12-hour shifts a week, for example, that type of thing. So, yeah, it has an impact on the entire workforce when you have as many people out as we do.
The Navy says 26 nations will take part in this year's RIMPAC, and they'll bring 38 surface ships, 4 submarines, 170 aircraft, and 25,000 personnel. The biannual exercise is scheduled from June 29th to August 4th. This year's theme is Capable Adaptive Partners and will focus on disaster response, warfighting, and counter-piracy operations.
Congressman Ed Case was on Sunrise today talking about everything from Red Hill to gun control. Here's a portion of that interview.
The Board of Water Supply said there's no doubt that there's fuel contamination. The question is how and when the water source is going to be contaminated, and I wanted to know what's being done for the short-term problem of our water supply.
Well, I don't think there is any surprise in that. The water was contaminated. The question is how extensive was that contamination, and exactly what are we doing to reduce that contamination and remove it? And we don't know the full answer to that yet. Certainly, there are a number of studies going on, again, to determine the exact extent. There's ongoing action by the Navy to basically reverse suck out of the aquifer to make sure that any plume that was out there comes back out. The Navy thinks it's recovered most of that. But again, it's still a very uncertain situation. And although it hasn't been in the news quite as much as a couple of months ago, there's a lot going on, all funded by Congress through the last fiscal year, where we funded about $1.1 billion to the cleanup, the remediation, the defueling, and the closure. And we are pursuing, in my Appropriations Committee and otherwise, in the upcoming fiscal year, another $1 billion plus to continue that.
The next issue we want to talk about is gun control. Do you see any hope of getting control of the gun violence that we are seeing day after day? It almost seems endless.
Gun violence is a national tragedy. It is an embarrassment on the part of our country in the world. I was in Europe last week on the front lines of the conflict with Russia and countries like Poland and Lithuania and Finland and others, visiting our troops, understanding the Ukraine conflict, what we can do about it. But as I was there, tremendous tragedy was happening back in our country, in Texas, and the foreign leaders that I was talking to looked at us and said, "What is your problem?" For such a leader in the world on so many issues, and yet you have the highest rate of gun violence and gun death of any developed country in the entire world. What is that really all about? We in Hawaii sometimes are a little removed from that because we have the lowest rate of gun violence in the country, the lowest rate of gun deaths in the country, and we have reasonable laws that I believe should be emulated across the country. We're not talking about taking guns away from folks that want to use it. If you have a handgun or a rifle, you're a responsible citizen, you want to use it at the gun range or even in hunting or further activities, hey, I support that. But there is no reason why we have to have widespread ownership of assault rifles, of bump stock, high-capacity ammunition delivery that are designed specifically to kill a lot of people in a very short period of time. There's no reason not to have tough background checks. And again, the U.S. House has passed all of these measures out. The U.S. Senate is an obstacle right now. And I think that is a tragedy because I think most Americans do agree on reasonable gun regulations to curb violence such as we've seen in the last couple of weeks. And I think there is some hope. I'm certainly working with colleagues of mine on a bipartisan, bilateral basis, meaning House and Senate, to try to find some zones of agreement where we can actually possibly pass some baby steps. But in terms of the kind of overall regulation that we're going to need, again, unfortunately, there is a segment of our political society out there that is resistant to any changes whatsoever. And at some point, you have to answer that at the ballot box. And thus far, those states electing, and I will say this straight out, those Republican senators who are opposing gun regulation have not seen fit to change their minds. I'm hopeful that the citizens of those states will eventually view gun regulation as something that we have to do for the rest of our country, whatever you believe on the other divisive issues of our time.
Now to the latest from Tulsa, where 4 people were shot and killed when a gunman opened fire inside a hospital yesterday. Vaughn Hilliard reports.
Yes, authorities laid out tough, difficult details here this afternoon after a gunman opened fire, killing 4 civilians on Wednesday afternoon at this Tulsa hospital, St. Francis Hospital. The gunman, authorities say, entered the orthopedic wing of this hospital here, where he was targeting one particular surgeon who performed back surgery on him nearly 2 weeks ago. Frustrated that he was still in pain, authorities say that this man, 4 days ago, went and picked up a handgun. And then on Wednesday, just 3 hours before he opened gunfire, picked up an AR-15. And on a note that was found on his body, authorities say that note said that he was targeting that surgeon and anybody that got in his way. Ultimately, he shot and killed 4 civilians here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Vaughn Hilliard, NBC News.
The City Council has approved the plan to shorten the rail route. Under this so-called recovery plan, the rail line would run to Kakaako instead of to Ala Moana. The goal is to have a realistic timeline to finish the project so the city can receive $744 million in funding from the Federal Transit Administration. 3 council members voted no on the plan.
It's the best recovery plan that we can put together. I'm not confident that this is the best plan.
In order to resume federal funding,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
And unless we get this done and get it over to the federal government, they're not going to resume federal funding, correct?
The recovery plan now goes to the FTA. Rail CEO Lori Kahikini has said that the FTA might think that the city's $10 billion rail budget is too low and asked them to raise it by several $100 million. It's unclear when the FTA will announce its decision.
Housing costs across the nation are skyrocketing, including here in Hawaii. And on Maui, the rental rate at one complex is about to double, catching some residents off guard. Our Chelsea Davis spoke with a tenant who says that will force him out.
The new owners of this apartment building at 1371 Lower Main Street in Wailuku say they are doing much needed renovations. And because of that, rents are going up substantially.
They're slapping our face.
Robert Manderas has been living in his 1-bedroom apartment in Wailuku for 2.5 years now.
Everybody over here is all Social Security.
The 77-year-old Maui native pays $975 a month for a room off Lower Main Street.
Now we come home, we get letters pinned to our door. It's ridiculous.
The letter taped to his door last week says his monthly rent will increase to $1,927 starting next month.
When I read the letter, I said, oh my God, where am I going to go? Everybody here is looking for place. Nobody can find. Nobody.
According to a recent report, median rental prices rose statewide from 2019 to this year. Honolulu saw an 11% increase. Hilo saw a 15% jump. Kahului, Wailuku, and Lahaina saw nearly 16% hikes.
Rent on Maui has been ridiculous. You see a lot of people who are struggling to either find rentals or who are being caught in a place where their rents are increasing unexpectedly.
The 2 buildings include 8 commercial spaces and 27 residential units. Rents were artificially low for years because the prior owner didn't have a mortgage to pay. The property manager says the new owners need to renovate to keep the units safe and are being affected by rising costs as well. The letter to tenants provided contacts for rental assistance. For Mr. Medeiros, he's not sure what's next. He'll be 78 this year, and although he has health issues, he's trying to find a job.
I have no choice.
In the meantime, he's hoping to work something out with his new landlord.
Sir, if you're watching this, please think about the people that are living here. Okay, thank you.
In Wailuku, Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
Thanks, Chelsea, for that report. I know here on Oahu, it is also a problem. I have friends who just got a similar notice, increase of $500. It's almost a quarter more. And then they decide to look for something else. And it's really difficult to find anything else.
Yeah, everything's going up, everything. And hopefully the landlord in that case can work with the people to find a solution to that.
All right, guys, let's switch gears here now. Taking you outside live, looking over our beautiful city. Look at that.
What a nice day.
Yeah, 81 degrees out there right now. Just check the temp. Let's see what the rest of the week is going to be like. I know there's going to be some changes with those winds.
Those trade-ins will be kind of wrapping up, but keep in mind, today is expected to be lighter. The winds are expected to be lighter today than they were yesterday. Even slower winds are coming in by tomorrow. Notice how the streamlines change, and those lighter winds will hang on through the weekend. And then a stronger trade wind breeze is expected back sometime on Monday. They'll be back up to 10 to 20 miles an hour. So today's going to be very nice. So over the next 7 days, the weather's going to change very little. Again, we're going to get nice steady trade winds today. Softer trade winds with more afternoon clouds and higher humidity levels through the weekend, but still lots of sunshine. And then the trade winds come bouncing back on Monday. That's a nice long stretch of beautiful.
And this important tourism update for you. Today, the state will issue its report on domestic arrivals from May. But already, we have a complete international count, and it's still a fraction of normal. Only 581 people flew here from Japan yesterday after 3 days of being under 400. Japanese arrivals were 7% of pre-COVID normal in May, same as April. And in other news regarding Japan, Governor Ige said yesterday that he expects Japan Airlines to relaunch service to Kona starting August 1st.
For those who adopted pets during the pandemic, the return to travel may mean leaving them behind or bringing them along for the first time. NBC News correspondent Vicky Nguyen retrieved some tips to help navigate the process.
Kept on a tight leash for more than 2 years, many families have the itch to travel again. Among them, 23 million American households who adopted a pet during COVID. So what's the best option to ensure you have a good trip and your pet is safe too?
Hi. Well, the pandemic may have taught us to sit and stay at home, but as travel resumes, we humans are going to have to learn a few new tricks, like the questions to ask and what to consider when choosing a boarding facility for our beloved pets.
With 71% of Americans expected to travel this year, exceeding pre-pandemic levels, those who have pets may look to facilities like New York City's Dogma.
What do you do here at Dogma?
We are second home for the pups.
Dogma founder June Takama says before an overnight stay, each pup should stay for the day to ensure the dog likes the facility.
How can you tell if your dog had a good time at this place?
If they're not having a good appetite after going home and their behavior is different, they're not as friendly, they're telling you that I did not enjoy the stay.
What kinds of questions should you ask of a boarding facility that you're considering?
I think most important thing is all the dogs are neutered and spayed. Another thing is where would they be sleeping? A lot of the places freak the dogs at night, but here at Dogma, we believe in cage-free boarding.
Pet owners should also ask whether the facility remains staffed overnight. Here, dogs can snuggle in an actual bed with a human.
How many dogs will sometimes try to sleep with a staff member overnight?
I think the record is probably 8 dogs.
Additionally, Takama advises pet parents to ask about vaccination requirements and feeding times. Also, ask how many potty breaks, how many opportunities for exercise and human interaction. Also, provide the facility with specific information about your pet, including any medications or dietary restrictions. And when it comes to fire safety, experts say think about the same precautions you'd want in place at your own home.
They should ask, what's the emergency plan if something happens? Do they have fire alarms? Do they have smoke alarms? What are they going to do in the event of an emergency?
Look for sprinklers if the facility doesn't offer around-the-clock supervision. But maybe you want to take your little ray of sunshine along for the ride.
Whether you're planning to take the car or fly, it's always safest for your pet to be in a carrier. And if you plan to take to the friendly skies, make sure that carrier is small enough to fit underneath an airplane seat. And bring lots of treats, right, Moose? Yeah.
Before you travel, let your pet get used to the carrier by leaving it out and open at home so they can explore it on their own. When flying with a pet, expect to pay a fee of $95 to $125 each way, depending on the airline. Try to book a non-stop flight to minimize travel time and reserve a window seat to avoid commotion in the aisle. And ahead of any travel, schedule a checkup with your veterinarian, making sure your fur baby is ready to embark.
What about that job, sleeping with the pet?
That's adorable.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was
Good
a cute
gig.
story.
All right, let's see what the interweb is talking about today. And there's a lot of new entertainment options coming and out there already. Let's start with this. Netflix has released the first photos from Bradley Cooper's upcoming film, Maestro. Cooper plays the iconic conductor Leonard Bernstein. He also directs the film. Maestro is set to be released next year. All right, moving on. This is available now. I want to watch this, actually. There's a new South Park special out there on Paramount Plus. It's called South Park Streaming Wars, and the plot is centered on Cartman in an epic argument with his mom. Wow, that's an original plot line there. But that's a classic great plot line. Love it. Fun fact, South Park started way back in 1997. I cannot believe it has been around that long.
Wow, I'll be honest, I never got into South Park all that much.
A lot of times people, there's really decisive between Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park. I like them all.
I love Family Guy. Family Guy and SpongeBob, even though it's way out there, different brand, but I love SpongeBob, growing up with that.
More options to watch.
Yes, athletes from the Emmy Award-winning documentary Cheer are hitting the road for a 38-day live tour. Cheer Live brings together fan favorites from Navarro College and Trinity Valley Community College, two of the most successful rival cheer programs in the country. Cheer Live kicked off this week in San Diego, and they've also got stops booked in Atlanta, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, and pretty much so many states across the mainland. And I personally never watched this, but I was a former coach of cheerleading at Iolani School, and it is a sport. It is an intense, one of the most dangerous sports out there. So mad respect to all of those athletes there.
I imagine it's good reality TV as well, just with the competition and all the drama around that. And there has to be some personal or personality conflicts that unfold, or it wouldn't be on Netflix.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. And I believe there were also some Hawaii athletes in that show as well.
I heard about that.
Yeah, super talented. So shout out to them.
All right, guys. So a lot of people talking about this one. Some new art taking form in the Midwest.
Wow, look at that. That's beautiful. It's an exciting day for the Prince fans in Minneapolis. We're talking about Prince the musician, not the royal Prince, which we will get to that in a second. It's a long-awaited day. The mural is being unveiled along with a big party. It stands 100 feet tall and is now one of the largest in the Twin Cities. Muralist Jairo Vega just started painting that about 2.5 weeks ago, but this project has been 7 years in the making. The organizers work closely with Prince's family to bring it to life. Prince fans have told us just how excited they are to honor Prince and what it'll do for the community. The mural kicks off the return of Paisley Park's annual celebration with the next 4 days filled with concerts, celebrity panels, in-studio recording sessions, and along with new museum exhibits to explore and much more.
Paisley Park, of course, being Prince's long-time home and residence.
What a nice tribute there.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. All right, talking about tributes, there's a lot going on in the UK. I know you were up early watching it. We're talking about the Queen's Jubilee.
Yes.
Yep, Platinum Jubilee.
70 years on the throne. How incredible. What a life.
A long time.
Well,
Ian Lee has a wrap-up of what went down today. Let me play it out.
Crowds surged toward Buckingham Palace to catch a glimpse of Queen Elizabeth as Royal Air Force jets thundered overhead. 70 aircraft soared through the sky in a celebratory salute to the Queen. The 96-year-old smiled as jets flew in formation to mark her 70-year reign.
We'll never see anything like that ever again. Well worth getting up at 4 a.m. for this.
Working members of the royal family stood at the monarch's side. Prince Harry and Meghan, who gave up royal responsibilities when they moved to California, are in London, but keeping a low profile. The Platinum Jubilee kicked off Thursday morning with the ceremonial Trooping the Color, showcasing more than 1,000 soldiers and hundreds of horses. And with a milestone this big, all the big guns come out. And the show isn't over yet. This is a 4-day nationwide bash filled with concerts, pageants, and street parties. Thousands are packing parks across London to be a part of history.
You know, it's 70 years she's been on the throne and she's done so much for the country, and it's just incredible.
The Queen's obviously been around for such a long time. She's been the only Queen that we've ever known.
Queen Elizabeth is Britain's longest-serving monarch and the first to reach the milestone of 7 decades on the throne. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Amazing fashion there. We were just talking about that as well.
I love it.
All right, there is a local connection to the Queen. She's visited here before, right?
Yes,
it's been a while
she has. In 1963, actually, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II came to Hawaii after a stop in Fiji. A crowd of about 4,500 people greeted them, according to news accounts at the time, and the Queen received a beautiful 4-strand golden orange ilima lei on the tarmac from then Governor John Burns. That is a highly respected and sought-after lei, and it takes so many flowers just to make one. Legendary waterman Duke Kahanamoku and his wife also greeted the royal couple.
I didn't realize this earlier, but I'm reading the other headlines on this newspaper, and that's fascinating.
The gems.
Yeah. To flee with 3,200 in gems back in the 60s. That had to be a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, Iolani Palace held some Platinum Jubilee celebrations here, and I'll actually be recapping that for our newscast tonight starting at 4 o'clock on Hawaii News Now.
Excellent. So we'll look forward to First at 4 coming up on KHNL. I'm back here tomorrow. We're on our digital platforms only for This Is Now. Ashley's back on Monday. She's been holding down